Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. Yes, it's Friday. Time for relaxation. It's the weekend, everybody. Hope you all are safe. Hope you all have a wonderful and safe weekend. Be aware of your surroundings. Mind the children. If you see something, say something. This story is pertaining to a young girl that went missing years back, and she has not been found, alive or deceased. This is the story of Asha Degree. If you have any information pertaining to the whereabouts of this African American girl child, please call your local authorities. Thank you so much for joining me.
We begin tonight with a story that has haunted the small community of Shelby, North Carolina for nearly 20 years. In the middle of the night, a 9-year-old girl walked away from her home and vanished. It was Valentine's Day in the year 2000, and several drivers saw little Asha Degree walking along the side of the highway, but no one called police, and she was never seen again. Reporter Ken Lemon sat down with her heartbroken parents, who say even now, nearly 2 decades later, they are not giving up hope. Asha Degree is a girl gone too soon on so many levels.
She didn't have a cell phone. There were no laptops, there were no tablets, and there certainly wasn't social media back
None of the things that today would have made it easier to find her were available on Valentine's Day 2000.
I can't give up on her.
Asha became in her disappearance more than a lost girl in a rural community 50 miles west of Charlotte.
Asha was actually considered Shelby's sweetheart to a lot of people.
I pray. I still pray that they find that child.
What has this 18 years of waiting been like for you?
It's worse than death, because at death you got closure.
After all these years, Asha's parents, Aquila and Errol Degree, still believe she will be found alive.
That's all we have. And until I have concrete evidence, nobody's going to take my hope away.
2 days before she vanished, all eyes were on 9-year-old Asha at a school basketball game.
We were fourth grade all-stars.
Bethany Boggs was one of Asha's teammates. She's now 27. She said back then she and Asha felt invincible.
We had a good record, and so to us, we were the best team there was.
As good as they were, in this game, they were not the best. A tough loss for all of them, but apparently, especially so for Asha Degree.
She was competitive and usually happy, but she was upset at the loss that day. It was very hard for us to accept that we had lost that big game that day.
Detectives believe 2 nights later, Asha packed a book bag and simply left home. It was a rainy night. Investigators believe someone saw her walking on the road and took her. When her mother went to wake her up for school that morning, Asha didn't answer.
And something said, open the door.
She wasn't in bed.
Then I went back in our bedroom, woke her up, told him Asha's not in his house. He's like, what are you talking about?
A deputy arrived 10 minutes later, about 6:40 in the morning. The sheriff right behind him, and more.
About 7:15, I think I had helicopters and every news truck from here to South Carolina.
Asha Degree disappeared in the middle of the night.
Help came quickly from seemingly everywhere.
See, but they was on horseback, they was on four-wheelers, they was on ATVs, they was in cars, walking.
She said there were more than 500 searchers in the first 2 weeks, but the sheriff didn't let Aquila Degree leave the house.
Go find my child.
The Degrees didn't realize it at the time, but while searchers were combing areas just like this looking for Asha, investigators were wondering what role, if any, the parents played in her disappearance.
Never had to deal with cops. Never had a reason to. So I was like, okay, y'all need to stop asking me questions. We need to get outside. She's not in here. Whatever you need. You want blood, lie detector test, whatever. We've done it all.
And you guys were actually brought in at one time for a lie detector test.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we asked for it.
You did?
We were the first one we took. We asked for it because we wanted it out the way. Clear me as a suspect so you can keep looking and keep doing what I need you to do, which is help find my child.
And we're looking for a missing person. Her name's Asha DeGracia.
Investigators, finally satisfied with the family's response, shifted their focus to tip calls. There were plenty of them, but nothing was panning out. Their first solid clue came a year and a half later, 2 counties and almost 20 miles away. A straight shot of Highway 18, just south of Morganton. A man clearing brush found Asha's book bag just off the highway.
There is some hope there that we found a piece of something anyway. Cause we didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing. And so what they found the book bag, they're like, well, maybe we ain't closer there.
We actually got to see the photographs of everything that was in the book bag, and everything that we reported missing was there.
Particularly looking for something like this in a ditch or on the side of the road or something.
Investigators hope to find evidence that Asha was abducted in this area and that they may even find her body here. These were all trained searchers, combing through thick vegetation. Some had search dogs. They even dug up a few spots. Every development, a new reason for hope, then always anguish.
Just you know, bunch of emotions, you know, whatever, you don't know for sure. And they could have just been, took the book back up there and told the detective, the police, and everybody off, you know.
There were more tips and more searches, but nothing substantial. Each dead end took a toll on Asha's family.
Every time a car, every time a door knock, if I thought I seen y'all's truck, any reporting anywhere, it was almost like you're on pins and needles. Like, are they coming to tell us that they found her and they got here before the police did? Or is they coming to tell her they found her? Or is they coming to tell us they found remains?
2 years ago, 16 years after Asha vanished in the middle of the night, her parents thought there might be a break in the case. Investigators got a tip that someone who looked like Asha may have gotten into a green car like this along the same highway where she was last seen. The next big tip related to that car still hasn't come in.
It's one of the biggest letdowns because it's like you're reliving everything all over again, which we never forget. We honestly never forget.
And they never give up.
You know where Asha is. God, we ask in the mighty name of Jesus, bring her back home. And God, we're going to pray until you bring her back home.
Each year, the Degree family holds a march to the spot on Highway 18 where she was last seen, a mile from home. The day Asha was reported missing, truckers passing by said they'd spotted her here. Her parents want people to remember the spot and their daughter.
We're her parents, and if we give up, why wouldn't we expect y'all to give up? So we can't give. For us, we can't give up. Until we have closure, we cannot give up. It's beautiful in this day.
Sandy Hunt never knew Asha and doesn't know her family. This poster is as close as she got. But she told me that she feels their pain just like it's her own struggle.
I just can't imagine, you know, the anguish of wondering all these years.
Like so many in this community, she wants to see Asha back home, alive and well.
As long as she's out there, do you think you'll ever forget?
No. And even if she came home, I'll always remember.
Thought he had some information, and we follow up on it. Doesn't appear it's anything that's going to be.
Investigators remember too. Every week, members of the FBI meet with state and local detectives about Asha's case. Every single week.
Tip number 277.
In the past 3 years alone, they've chased nearly 300 tips. They've gone all over the country following leads. Tim Adams is a former police chief and former supervisor of a team investigating crimes against juveniles.
And one of my biggest fears during that time was to have a child that was reported missing that you never could find, and that haunts you at the end of your career.
Every one of his other cases have been cleared. Now in retirement, he's on Asha's case. To this day, still one of the biggest open cases in the region.
Even if I left this agency tomorrow, this case would still be haunting me.
This is the area where she was last seen.
Detective Jordan Bowen is a local who's just a year older than Asha when she was reported missing.
How big is this case?
It's massive. I mean, this case is way different than any other case, any other normal, even another missing persons case.
The team still visits areas they consider to be key to the case.
We are swinging by all the local businesses to see if you would be willing to allow us to put Asha Degree missing flyer in your window.
Reminding people face to face to keep Asha's case current and active.
Because Shelby Sweetheart is missing.
The team has kept every piece of evidence connected to the case. FBI agents alluded to technology that may be available soon that can evaluate evidence in a way like never before and point to a suspect.
While I can't go into specifics about that type of technology, I can say we've absolutely considered and do continue to consider all the technology that have been used in the past to help solve missing kid cases. And
they still need information to narrow the scope on any new leads that come their way. Last year, the FBI brought in a special child abduction team that interviewed and re-interviewed more than 300 people, including Bethany Boggs.
Here we go. Hope that anything I said might help in some way. Okay, hold on tight.
She's now a married mother of 2.
On your mark, get set, go!
She lives the kind of life everyone wants for Asha.
Jump!
And now she sees Asha's case through the eyes of a mother.
Oh, it hits the pit of my stomach a little bit different than it used to. It does make me appreciate the time with my children more.
She also thinks about Asha's parents, who only have this old photo album.
I went through everything. I kept everything that had a picture of her.
Occasionally, they get age-progressed photos that lets them imagine the one thing they want most, to see their daughter as she is today.
She's the last thing I think of when I go to sleep. First thing I think of when I wake up.
There is still a $45,000 reward for any information as to what happened to little Asha Degree. A family frustrated 12 years after.
All right, everybody, that's commentary pertaining to Asha Degree. It's a very baffling story. A 9-year-old trying to imagine a 9-year-old running away because of a lost basketball game. Thank you for joining me. This is Crime Vault. This is where I bring you information pertaining to a cold case involving a grown-up and or a child that is currently missing. As you heard, the reward stands at $45,000 pertaining to an African-American girl child that went missing in rural North Carolina. Did she run away, Asha Degree, because she was upset over a basketball game that she lost? One thing I try to tell myself is that maybe what someone else would do, I wouldn't, whether it be as a child or an adult. So in my mind, I'm trying to chop up the fact that a child would run away because of a lost game. Was something said to her out of the way about her playing that evening? Was it another teammate? Was it something maybe her family said to her about her playing the game? See, you don't know because we weren't there. So I have to ask myself, would a 9-year-old run away because she lost a basketball game? We know that children are fragile, so the mindset of a child may not be is not going to be the same as an adult, allegedly. So as I said, I have to put myself in the shoes of a 9-year-old. Would I, as a 9-year-old, run away if I lost a game? Well, I could say possibly no, because I've participated in all types of activities, not particularly sports, but naturally you don't win every time, no matter what you're excelling at. But I'm not her. I'm not Asha Degree. And I wasn't in her mindset. So we're going to chop up what happened to Asha Degree. If you'd like to donate to this great network, Everyday Shenanigans, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live. I'm going to bring you an article pertaining to the disappearance of this girl child who was 9 years old at the time of her disappearance. Thank you so much for joining me. Naturally, There will always be people who will say they saw something, heard something, especially inmates. And you have to ask yourself, is there an ulterior motive for a person coming forward many moons after a person goes missing? Do they know something? Did they hide something? What will be the point in coming forward? Naturally, a person may come forward that's incarcerated because they want something in exchange for giving the said information. You're entitled to your opinion of the information I'm about to bring to you. This article was uploaded November 16, 2020. Inmate says he knows what happened to Asha Degree. The source is The Star. For couples around the country, Valentine's Day includes flowers, candy, expressions of love. For one Falston family, the day marks a painful anniversary, the day a 9-year-old girl vanished. Local, state, federal investigators continue to try and solve the mystery of Asha Degree's disappearance, and they may have a new lead. A prison inmate recently sent a letter to The Star in which he says he knows what happened to the fourth grader nearly 21 years ago. Marcus Mellon wrote to the news outlet to say that the child was killed and he knows how and where to find her. Mellon, 53, was convicted of sex crimes against children in Cleveland County in 2014. In his letter to The Star, Mellon said he has information and asked that it be passed along to the FBI. Mellon asked investigators to come see him to find out what happened. Here is what he wrote. Asha Degree has been missing for over 20 years. About 4 months ago, I had found out her whereabouts and what had happened to her. She was killed and then took and buried. I do know how and what town she is in. I hope you get this letter and do come see me. It's on the up and up. Delayed visit. Cleveland County Sheriff Alan Norman said the tip will be followed up on, but an obstacle will slow the process. Mellon is serving nearly 14 years in prison and is housed at Alexander Correctional Institute, where there currently is a COVID-19 outbreak. Norman said that investigators from his department and the FBI will interview Mellon when the situation at the prison is under control. Though the child vanished more than 20 years ago, tips will get reported according to the FBI. 45 came in last year. 45 tips. Whether or not Mellon actually has knowledge of what happened to Asha, Norman said all tips are investigated. The sheriff did note that sometimes inmates have ulterior motives, such as bargaining for preferential treatment during incarceration. We treat every piece of information that we receive as good information until we prove otherwise, Norman said. Chilly, tragic morning. On February 14, 2000, Asha's parents, Harold and Aquila, went to wake her for school, but she was nowhere to be found. Investigators heard from 2 people who said they saw a girl walking along North Carolina 18 around 4 a.m. One person said when they went back to check on her, the child disappeared into the woods. She hasn't been seen or heard from since. Investigators have their theories on why Asha left her home before dawn, one being that she was still upset over her performance in a basketball game. Clues uncovered. More than a year after the child's disappearance, construction workers found Asha's book bag 30 miles from where she was last seen. Years later, investigators released photos of a book and a shirt were inside the bag in an effort to possibly spark renewed interest. Tips have also come in to suggest Asha may have gotten into a 1970s Lincoln Continental or Ford Thunderbird, and one of those vehicles that was relayed in this video I played was a green older model of one of these cars. A task force has been formed to continue trying to solve the mystery of what happened to Shelby's sweetheart. Asha's parents continue to hold out hope that their daughter will safely return home. They host a walk each year on the anniversary of their daughter's disappearance, which is also their wedding anniversary. Billboards in Cleveland County showed a smiling Asha as she looked nearly 21 years ago, and a computer-generated photo of how the 30-year-old woman may look today. Local and federal money has remained in a pool for years, offering a $45,000 reward for information leading to a resolution in the case. If anyone knows anything whatsoever that they think is insignificant, it may be the piece of the puzzle to bring Asha home and bring closure to the family, Norman said. Anyone with information is asked to call 704-484-4788 or 704-672-6100. This is the timeline into the investigation of Asha Degree's disappearance. February 14, 2000. 2:30 a.m. Asha's father checks on her. 3:15 a.m. Asha is seen walking on North Carolina Highway 18 towards Shelby by a truck driver. 6 a.m., Asha is reported missing. February 23rd, 2000. The search for Asha is called off. 2001, Asha's backpack is found buried along North Carolina Highway 18 in Burke County. 2014, law enforcement believes they have a suspect, but it leads to another dead end. 2016, the FBI and Cleveland County Sheriff's Office released information about a car that Asha may have gotten in on the night she disappeared. The vehicle is described as an early 1970s Lincoln Mark 4, Lincoln Mark 4, or a Ford Thunderbird, a dark green with rust around the wheel wells. 2017. In an effort to generate new leads, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, the State Bureau of Investigation, and the North Carolina Office of the FBI partners with the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team out of the FBI's main office in Washington. 2018. The Sheriff's Office released a video viewing the Degree case and asked for information about new items of interest found by the FBI Child Abduction Team, including the Dr. Seuss book, McElligot's Pool, and a new Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. 2020, the FBI releases an updated photo of what Asha Degree may look like today. In this said article, you will see a picture of the parents. They are still together, still married, Aquila and Harold Degree, and they were attending an honor walk for their daughter. And this was back in 2013. As I said, the current reward for her is $45,000. They kept money in a pool for Asha's any information pertaining to her disappearance. And then once again, as I said, if you have any information, solid leads or not, you need to call the local authorities pertaining to her disappearance, 704-484-4788 or 704-672-6100. Let's go over the timeline pertaining to her disappearance. 9 years old at the time, upset over a basketball game. Authorities believe this is the reason that she ran away. Is this the reason that she ran away? Or is this the parents' version? I also got information that they were on these people's backs, the mother and father, to where at some point they believe possibly these people had something to do with their disappearance. Why? What was it about the parents, their actions, their reactions? As you heard the mother say, we wanted to take a lie detector test so you could remove me as a suspect. Which one did they think was the suspect, the mother or the father? Eventually they ruled them out. Or did they just get tired of trying to interrogate them? Did they take a lie detector test? Both. Did they both pass it? And when I mean pass, I mean pass. Not anything showing a flag or inconclusive. Because you didn't hear that mentioned in this audio about lie detector tests being passed by both. You just heard them say law officials moved on, because there is a difference. Kind of like beating a dead horse. Well, the horse is dead. How many times can you keep beating it, if you understand what I'm saying? So let's just go on and move on to something else. Is that what happened? The book bag found many miles up the highway, buried. Construction workers found it. Don't you find it odd? You don't find a body. Why would a person bury the book bag but not the body as well? Find that strange. Backtrack for a minute. Before the book bag's discovered many years later, a year and a half later, the father goes and checks on the child at 2:30 a.m. I found that peculiar. And the reason why I say that's peculiar to me is because of the obvious reason. Why would the father be checking on a child at 2:30 a.m.? Did he check on her because she was still upset? She hadn't gone to bed yet, hadn't gone to sleep because she was angry days later, which I find that interesting too, that she would still be angry days after the game. So follow me now. Days later, she's still angry about a basketball game, allegedly. Father checks on her on the morning of February 14th at 2:30 a.m. I find that very odd. Why would he be checking on her? I can only see you checking on your child at that time of day, early wee hours, is if they were sick. If they, as I said, had been upset, you knew that they were still up in their bed, not sleeping. That would be the only reason to check on a child at 2:30 a.m. Then we hear at 3:15 a.m., a trucker and another participant sees the child walking on a highway. Remind yourself that it is also raining at this time. So visualize in your head, it is in the dead of morning, dark. A 9-year-old girl child is walking a highway with no sidewalks in the damn dark with a book bag, and the person comes back to check on her allegedly and says that the child went into the woods. Well, how would you know that she went into the woods unless you were looking in your rearview mirror while you're driving? I doubt that you would even be trying to look. If it's raining, in my understanding from a commenter, it was stormy. So that's a difference between storming and raining. Stormy means possibly 9 times out of 10, water is coming down very hard. So it would probably be kind of hard to see in any mirrors if the rain is heavy. Stay woke, everybody. The person goes back to check on the child, but the child went into the woods. Did she go into the woods? Or did someone drive up and pick her up? Offered her a ride, she obliged, got in the car, or they snatched her up. Which is it? I don't know if I believe this theory that the child walked into the woods. Maybe to take cover? Perhaps. I don't know. But this seems strange to me. So 3:15 a.m., 2 people spot the child on the highway. What you have to ask yourself is the obvious question. Although it's raining, storming, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But this is what the news reporters say. How many people drove by Asha Degree and didn't stop to help? Bingo card. How in God's name could you not stop? No matter what time of day it is. Snow, sleet, rain, storming. How could you not stop? If you saw a child walking by on a highway. 2 lanes, I'm assuming. And as I've told you here in these parts of the region, we don't have a lot of sidewalks. And this was rural North Carolina. So 9 times out of 10, it's 2 lane. So there's no sidewalk to the side of either side of the road, just grass, a drop off. What's the truth? How many people drove by Asha Degree on that fateful morning? And it's not like picking up a man or a woman and you feared for your safety. You're talking about a child. What could a small 9-year-old do to you? I think you could have the upper hand on a 9-year-old girl, if you see where I'm going with this. How many people pass a 9-year-old girl walking a highway at 3 in the morning, storming, raining? Why would you drive by her? Very strange. Very strange information. So 2:30 in the morning, the daddy checks on her. 3:15, she's seen on the highway by a truck driver. Somebody goes back. Either the truck driver or somebody else goes back. 6 a.m., she's reported missing. 9 days later, the search is called off. As you heard in the commentary, helicopters, they were on horseback. They actually were looking for this black little girl. And we hear all the time that many missing people in America, whom are African-American, Native, Indian, there's no push forward for looking for them. There is no horseback. There are no helicopters. There's no hefty reward. That is true. But in this case, 2000, all efforts were put on foot, horseback, helicopters for a missing black 9-year-old girl child. 9 days later, the search was called off for her. 2001, backpack is found buried along Highway 18 in Burke County. A year and a half later. 13 years later, 2014, they believe they have a suspect, but it leads to a dead end. 2016, FBI releases information pertaining to a 1970s Lincoln and a Ford Thunderbird, dark green, believed to have rust around the wheel wells. 2017, they want to try to bring leads, to generate leads. So we have the Sheriff's Office, Cleveland County Sheriff's State Bureau, FBI, they partnered with the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team out of the FBI's main office in Washington. 2018, the sheriff releases a video of the decree case and of the interests and of the items of interest found by the FBI Child Abduction Team, including the Dr. Seuss book, McElligot's Pool, and a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. 2020, the FBI releases update photo, what she may look like today, a generated photo. Let's chop up that information. As I said, this is a strange story, and many people run away for different reasons. And as I said before, I remember a story of a young girl, was a teenager. She had stole something from the store and was humiliated. This is on the East Coast. And she didn't want people gossiping about her and talking about her and looking at her in a bad light. So she ran away and stayed gone. They later found her, I believe, in Florida, living on her own, which is so ever. And they asked her, why would you run away? Why would you leave and have people looking for you and worried about you? And she said, oh, I was ashamed because I had caught a theft charge and I was just embarrassed for myself and my family. So see, the mindset of each person is different. Now, this was a teenager who ran away, stayed gone. And eventually they found her, located her in Florida years later. So her mindset was she ran away because of shame. Now, many children get in trouble, catch charges, theft charges, and commit worse crimes. They don't run away. But this child did. This was a Caucasian female. Now, we have this case of a 9-year-old black girl out of rural North Carolina running away allegedly because of a basketball game. Angry, mad. So was she acting out in the house, wayward, talking crazy to her parents, wailing, falling out, crying? What? Did the parents get angry and tell her, hey, move on, it's over with, you lost the game, move on? How did they talk to her after the game? So you have to ask all those questions because you have to get in the mindset of a child, 9 years old. What set her off besides just losing the game? Was that the only reason she would run away? Why is she angry days later? Why would she run away at 3 a.m. in the morning? She could have ran away after the basketball game. She's shamed, she's upset, she feels like she didn't perform well. And as I said, was she teased by her coach, her teammates, other teammates, people in the town, her own parents, family? I don't know because I don't know them. But I did find it interesting watching this interview. The mother didn't give a lot of eye contact. And a lot of times people don't give direct eye contact when speaking to people. It doesn't mean necessarily that they have something to hide or that they're lying. But I noticed she didn't give direct eye contact while they were filming her during this interview. And I also noticed when they went back into time, the original interview of she and the husband speaking of the disappearance of Asha, she kind of looked down to the ground. Why was that? And the reason that I say this is for the obvious reason. As I said, some people are bashful. Some people don't give direct eye contact because there's times I don't give direct eye contact when talking to people. It doesn't mean that I am not confident about what I'm talking about. Maybe it's a nervous tick. I don't know. But we're talking about a child missing. So I think you want to look into the camera. You want to look at the people who are speaking to you directly because you are the one with the missing child. Valentine's Day, their anniversary as well. So imagine your child goes missing on the same day you're celebrating your wedding anniversary with your spouse. We have to ask the obvious reason of why the sheriff's office weighed heavily on the parents. Because you see, these people do this for a living. Now, I don't know how experienced the sheriff's department was at the time of her disappearance in 2000, if they had seasoned detectives working for them. But if the FBI was called in, it should not have mattered because they're the big dogs and they deal with this type of situation on the daily. If indeed the sheriff's department didn't handle a lot of missing people, missing children. So was the sheriff's department helpful in chasing the leads? Were they adamant and diligent in their job? We know the FBI would be, because that's the reason they stepped in. They wanted to help. And I find it interesting, no leads. A man from prison wanting to give information to the disappearance of the child. But was he genuine? Did he actually know where she was, where she's buried? Did they follow up? Because now it's 2022. This is a November 20 article. At that time, COVID was on the jump. But why couldn't they have done a video call with the inmate? Because this is serious business. A child is missing. So I found that strange. Is there another update pertaining to what happened with this inmate who was serving 14 years for children crimes? And how did he get the information? So you have to ask all those questions. They don't go to talk to him because of COVID. Did they follow up? Is that the dead lead they're speaking of in this article? Where did he get this information from? Or was he just making it up, wanting attention? Because that happens with inmates, men who are locked up for life, death row. They make up stuff. They make up stuff because they're bored. They don't have anything to do. Is this man or was this man telling the truth about knowing where she is, how she got gone, and where she's buried? And why, if it's not the truth, why would you go to the sheriff or the newspaper star and send them this letter if it's not the truth? But as I said, people do things for frivolous reasons, mostly to get attention. So as I say once again, in this article, they say they had a dead lead. Is this the lead they're speaking of? The inmate, or is it something else? Does this inmate know the truth? What happened? And then you have to ask yourself the obvious question. Let's say it was true. How would he get information about a little girl being buried? Unless he was fraternizing with that kind of person. Hello? And we've heard of child molesters being in groups, underground groups, swapping children pictures. That does go on. Is this how he found out? He was in some type of underground group, or he fraternized with people, men who assault children. And that's how he got the information. So we don't know what's the truth or not. So far, there are no leads. That was the article that came up in my Google search the other day to bring you this said information pertaining to the disappearance of Asha Degree. And I didn't see anything newer, except for this 2020 article, dated November 2020. I'm weighing on the parents. I'm also weighing on this inmate. I'm weighing on this book bag being found a year and a half later. Construction workers finding it, buried. Think about the odds of that. What if indeed nobody was in this area digging to build something? You would have never found the book bag. Don't you find that interesting? As they say, there's always a reason for the season. So here's this book bag being discovered a year and a half later, buried. But what's interesting is, why would you bury the book bag and the child not be accompanied with the book bag? I'm just saying. Because it's interesting. Because you can weigh it 1,000 different ways why the bag would be buried, but nothing pertaining to the child, such as skeletal remains, a whole body whatsoever. So why bury the bag? Who buried the bag? A book and a new t-shirt found inside of the bag. Once again, why would the child go out in the rain to run away and only have a book, t-shirt in the bag? Where would she be going? Was she just mad she grabbed her book bag? Was she going to stay at somebody's house? Did she call somebody before and say, hey, I want to come spend the night at your house. I want to stay at your house. Did they check the phone records of the parents? Who was calling? Calls coming in and out. And at that time, we weren't heavily into social media. We did have cell phones in 2000, November 2000. But people were still using landlines in 2000. So had the little girl talk to somebody on the phone, schoolmate. Who has she called? Who called her? And are the parents telling the truth of what happened going into February 14th and the discovery of their child not being in her bed that early morning at 6 a.m.? And why, once again, did the sheriff weigh heavily on these two parents as suspects? What did they see or hear about this family to make them think possibly they were involved? Are they involved? I don't know. I think what might throw some of us off is the book bag situation, that possibly the little girl went walking, someone abducted her, did whatever they wanted with the body, whether they kept her, kidnapped, or whatever, but they threw away the bag. It's very interesting detail, because what you're always going to ponder on is, if they found the bag, then where is the child? Is she alive? They threw away the bag as not to have evidence of the child, but then in a way that's foolish, because if you kept the whole child, that's more evidence than a book bag. Or did they bury Asha Degree out there and her remains have not been discovered, but you only found the book bag? Because I find it hard to believe, and this is a sad thing to say, but we have to be realistic due to the fact this is 20 plus years later. If you buried the bag of the person, the child, purse, it's all the same to me. 9 times out of 10, the person isn't alive. Because it would make no sense to bury a book bag, purse, satchel, suitcase, and then leave the human being that it belongs to alive. Stay woke. What would be the purpose in burying their parcels and then leave them alive? You buried one thing that is pertaining to the victim, 9 times out of 10, the victim is no longer alive. This is possibly foul play due to the bag being found buried. And I have this sick feeling in my stomach that they took that child somewhere out there off that highway and buried her in one place and buried the bag in another. And only the bag, the book bag, was discovered by construction workers. Could there have been DNA taken from the bag? Did the person open the bag just to see what was inside of there? Is this child alive, or is she deceased? Are her parents responsible for her disappearance? Is one covering up for the other parent? Were there other people staying in the house? You have to ask all those questions. Anybody else staying at or visiting the house? Were there other children living in the house at the time? I did not hear of any other children in this story. Or did somebody kidnap the child out of her bed? But then that makes no sense if I'm to believe she was kidnapped out of her bed, because eyewitnesses, at least 2, say they saw her walking down the highway in the store. So are those people telling the truth? Those who said they saw the child walking, the trucker and somebody else, and the person that went back to try to get the child but said she wandered into the woods. What is the truth pertaining to the disappearance of Asha Degree? She would be 30 plus years of age at this moment, if indeed she's alive. And maybe she is alive. And maybe she'll see poster boards of herself and look and say, that looks like me. I am that child. And come forward to give us that information, how she came to be where she is today. Or are we talking about the worst case scenario? That Asha Degree did walk out of that house at 3 a.m, picked up by a sadist, assaulted, and later discarded somewhere in rural North Carolina or somewhere else. What is the truth? I want to thank you all so much for joining me. This is my Crime Vault video. It's been a while since I've done a Crime Vault story. This is where I bring you content and conversation, commentary pertaining to the disappearance of an adult or a child. And the case is cold. No information has been brought forth. I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope you all have a safe weekend. Once again, if you'd like to donate to this channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. All stickers, chats are welcome during my lives. You all have a wonderful, peaceful weekend. As I said, be careful of your surroundings, ladies, while you're out, venturing out, shopping, visiting with people, entertaining people. If you see something, say something. Mind the children. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. I want to thank you all for your time. Like, share, subscribe. Drop your comments below this video. Please go to my community page for said information and other breaking news and stories. Thank you for your time. Hope everybody's okay. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. The few that came on this late afternoon. Remember her name, Asha Decree. She's important, just like all children are important. And this is why you have to say something if you see something. If something doesn't look right, sound peculiar, speak up, as it was said in this article. No information is insignificant. They will decide, law officials, FBI, what is important and what is not pertaining to this case. Thank you all so much for joining me. God bless all of you. Please be safe. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you.